We shall commence this module by understanding the environmental concern. Alarmingly high concentration of pollutants in ambient air and water, particularly in urban conglomerations, both in developed and developing countries, is a cause of concern of researchers and policymakers. In developing countries, the major environmental hazards to health are associated with widespread poverty and lack of public infrastructure, such as access to drinking water, sanitation, and lack of health care, as well as emerging problems of industrial pollution. In developed countries, though environmental hazards are lesser, the health effects of pollution, such as asthma, is still a challenge. Let us first know the background issue. Prolonged and continuous exposure to air or water pollution would cause not only frequent occurrence of various illnesses but sometimes may also result in premature mortality. These illnesses would reduce people's capacity to work and earn. Moreover, a part of their income would be spent on defensive activities, which they undertake to combat the ill effects of exposure to environmental hazards. At macro level, a country's economic development is lowered when its labor stock consists of relatively unhealthy workers who may not be able to participate in the production process so efficiently. This is meant more to developing countries, where there is not only a lack of resources but also awareness among people about the consequences of environmental hazards. After studying this module, you shall be able to know about the problems and issues of the effects of environmental bad, that is pollution, particularly on human health and property value. Know about the theoretical construct of the models, understand household production and hedonic price methods, know how to prepare a questionnaire, evaluate the appropriate econometric techniques to estimate the demand for environmental goods, evaluate the merits and demerits of HHPM and HPM. Next, we shall move on to discuss the economic valuation techniques. Economists have evolved various methods to study how changes in the environmental attributes affect human health, property values, etc. These methods are broadly classified into stated preference and revealed preference techniques. Revealed preference method analyzes observable market information, that is, it uses data from actual market transactions of goods and services. This method includes measures such as cost of illness, human capital, surveys, hedonic pricing, and the quality adjusted life years. A stated preference method takes into account the construction of a hypothetical market for environmental goods through the use of questionnaires. The two most well-known stated preference methods are the contingent valuation method, that is CVM, and the choice experiments, that is CE. In this chapter, we present two methods of revealed preference approach, namely household production method and hedonic price method, to evaluate the effects in monetary terms, that is the social costs and benefits of environmental changes, that is either degradation or improvement, on public health and property values. These methods infer individuals' demand for environmental attributes such as clean air and water by estimating implicit price and the indirect utility, that is willingness to pay function. Household health production model comprises three components of cost. A, the cost of illness, COI. It includes the direct and indirect economic costs associated with a disease. It estimates the potential savings from the improvement in health conditions due to reductions in pollution. B. The cost of avoidance. It includes the costs incurred on averting activities such as using air conditioner, staying indoors on smoggy days to avoid exposure to air pollution, using bottled or filtered water. C. Monetary equivalence of disutility of illness, that is, the cost of discomfort, pain, etc. due to pollution induced illness. The hedonic pricing method estimates the differences in the price of housing in polluted or non-polluted areas. HPM has also been used to analyze the differences in wages between hazardous and non-hazardous working conditions. The differential in housing prices reflect the value people place on an environmental attribute such as clean air, and whereas wage differential compensation for riskier jobs. Let us first understand the household health production model, a theoretical construct. The household health production model provides a theoretical basis for economic measures of estimating the morbidity effects relating to exposure to environmental hazards. Since Grossman 1972, many variants of health production model have been formulated. For example, Cropper in 1981, Freeman in 1993, 2003, Dickey and Jerking 1991, and they estimated to obtain the value of environmental goods and services. In recent past, Surendra Kumar 2001 and Murthy et al. 2003 have estimated health production function to measure economic benefits of reduced air pollution in Indian cities. Following Freeman 1993, we present here a simple model of household health production. HHPM estimates people's willingness to pay for an improvement in environmental quality, reduced pollution levels, and therefore an increase in economic welfare due to the reduced costs of treatment and averting activities. In household health production model, health appears as number of sick days or work days loss denoted by S in any period of time. Among the other determinants which affect the health status are the environmental quality parameter Q, denoting the level of concentration of pollutants into ambient air or water, the amount of mitigating activities M undertaken by the individuals to reduce the health effects of a given level of exposure to pollutants. Examples of mitigating activities are doctor visit, medicines, hospitalization, pathological tests, etc. The averting activities denoting avoidance of exposure to environmental hazards. Examples of averting activities are installation of air conditioner, water filtration device such as reverse osmosis, RO, to have clean drinking water, staying indoors on smoggy days, etc. A vector of socio-economic variables Z includes individuals' education level, history of chronic illnesses, food and other habits. An individual's household health production function can be written as S depends on M, A, Q, Z with the condition delta S by delta Q is greater than 0, that is positive, and delta S by delta M and delta S by delta A is less than 0, that is negative. Utility function of a representative individual is given as U is a function of X, L, S, Q, where X is a private good that is transacted in the market. L is leisure time available per period. An individual derives positive utility from the consumption of X and L. He receives negative utility from experiencing S and Q. An individual maximizes utility subject to the budget constraint. I is equal to Y plus W times T minus L minus S is equal to X plus price of mitigating activities multiplied by the quantum of mitigating activities plus price of averting activities and the quantum of averting activities, where Y is an exogenous variable and denotes non-wage income. T represents total available time. Expression W times T minus L minus S shows wage income. Total income is denoted by I and is a sum of non-wage and wage incomes. Expression T minus L minus S denotes time spent at work. Given the level of environmental quality Q, socio-economic variables Z, per unit prices of mitigating and averting activities PM and PA, wage rate W, income I, an individual maximizes the following composite function with respect to X, M, A and L. Maximize G equal to U of X, L, S, Q plus lambda of Y plus W times T minus L minus S minus X minus price of mitigating activities minus price of averting activities, where Y is Lagrange multiplier. The indirect utility function for mitigating and averting activities may be written as follows. M depends on PM, PA, W, Q, Z. A depends on PM, PA, W, Q, Z. The marginal willingness to pay, that is DI upon DQ for a reduction in pollution, is given by the marginal cost of reducing the number of sick days or the work days lost associated with the reduced pollution levels. By differentiating the indirect utility functions and solving, we obtain the marginal willingness to pay equation as follows. DI by DQ is equal to W times DS by DQ plus PM times delta M by delta Q plus PA times delta A by delta Q plus bracket delta U by DS multiplied by DS by DQ by lambda. In this case, MWTP for reduced pollution is the reduction in the cost of achieving the optimal level of health given a variation in pollution concentration levels. Equation shows that MWTP for an improvement in environmental quality or the reductions in the pollution is the sum of observable increase in economic welfare from the reductions in number of sick time, that is work days lost, and mitigating activities, that is the cost of illness, averting activities and the monetary equivalent of the disutility of illness. The estimation of MWTP requires that all the three equations, that is the health production function, the indirect utility functions for mitigating and averting activities, to be estimated simultaneously, or alternatively a reduced form dose response function with health as a function of pollution and other explanatory variables can be estimated, given in Freeman 1993. Marginal willingness to pay can be obtained as a special case if averting activities are not undertaken by individuals or are minimal, and that mitigation reduces sick days from its exogenous level. In that case, MWTP will be the sum of cost of illness, that is mitigation costs, plus lost wages, that is opportunity cost, and the monetary equivalent of lost utility. However, these estimates will be a lower bound if either of the cost components, for example the disutility of illness, is not included in the analysis. Let us now discuss and summarize the HHPM model. HHPM provides a method of estimating both the social costs of illness, that is the cost of averting behavior, treatment and lost productive time, and the willingness to pay or willingness to accept compensation to avoid pain and discomfort associated with pollution induced illness. To obtain a more consistent and reliable data set, a common household survey is undertaken both for the COI and WTP components. However, HHPM estimates will be lower bound if all of these cost components are not included in the analysis. In practice, it may be difficult to obtain data for all of the above mentioned types of social costs, as sometimes, particularly in developing countries, people are not able to undertake averting activities to avoid the exposure to environmental hazards due to lack of sufficient resources and severe poverty. Also, they may not be able to provide proper information regarding the symptoms or episodes of an illness happening as a result of exposure to high levels of pollution, because they are not aware of any link between health effects and environmental hazards. In this situation, however, costs of treatment and opportunity cost workdays lost may be used to obtain people's WTP for an environmental attribute. Such an analysis may provide some useful inputs to policy makers to take actions to reduce pollution. For example, U. Gupta 2008 conducted household survey in the urban city of Kanpur in India in 2005-06. The objective of the study was to estimate individuals' WTP and the loss or benefit in economic welfare in aggregate for the city as a whole due to the urban air pollution or improved air quality in Kanpur, which was termed as one of the most polluted cities in India. The household survey was based on weekly health diary for 600 households. The data were collected for all the 3 seasons, thus creating a panel data set. During the survey, it was realized that households do not undertake any of the averting activities to avoid the exposure to air pollution. Among many other policy suggestions provided by the study, the most viable option for the city was to introduce clean vehicular fuel and technology and also a metro rail to decongest the traffic. Next, we shall move on to discuss the hedonic price model HPM, a theoretical construct. Properties are rented depending on the characteristics they possess, such as number of rooms, garage space, neighborhood qualities, environmental qualities like park, greenery around the residential area, clean air, access to market, etc. As a bigger house with many rooms would fetch higher rent, so would a house located in a cleaner area with good environmental qualities. Hedonic price model provides a measure of valuing changes in people's preferences due to changes in environmental attributes. It identifies first the difference in property values due to the variations in pollution levels across the city. Next, it infers people's willingness to pay for improved environmental quality. It also estimates the social value of the improvement in environmental qualities. Environmental attributes such as air or water quality would affect property price either as a producer good or as a consumer good. Freeman 1974 examined the impact of air pollution on property prices and people's willingness to pay. Murthy et al. 2003 used HPM for 2 Indian cities, Delhi and Kolkata, to study how changes in air quality, particularly the concentration of SPM, influences house rents and people's willingness to pay. They have also estimated economic welfare due to an improvement in air quality. HPM assumes an open city model where population is homogeneous due to unimpeded costless migration between urban areas. People will move around until utilities are equalized. If there is more pollution in one area, land prices will be lower. With less pollution, land prices will be higher. The increased value of land in clean areas is a measure of the air quality value, Kolstad 2000. Rosen 1974 showed that HPM is interpreted as a price schedule for the good, that is housing, when its offer and bid prices, that is the market, is in equilibrium. The partial derivatives of price function with respect to individual attributes are the market clearing marginal attribute prices. Rosen mapped out hedonic prices such that it represented the joint envelope of bids from demand and offers from supply. Generally, hedonic price functions are estimated as reduced form equations and account for both demand and supply influences. Hedonic price model is estimated in two stages. In the first stage, the implicit marginal price for an environmental amenity preferred by the households while selecting a residential property is estimated. In the second stage, the marginal willingness to pay function is estimated to identify how people value an environmental attribute and amenity. The house price function for the ith residential location is expressed as PHI is the function of SHI, NHI, EHI, where SH represents house structure such as size of the plot, number of rooms, etc. NH shows neighborhood characteristics such as other residents' standard and status, extent of the commercialization of the area, etc. EH depicts environmental quality characteristics such as people's perception about the air and water quality of the area, whether there are parks and enough green covers surrounding the area, etc. The utility function of households who acquire a house on rent in the ith location is U is the function of X, SHI, NHI, EHI. The households would maximize utility subject to the budget constraint I is equal to X plus PHI, where X is a normal marketed good and is taken as a numeraire. First order condition for the choice of environmental amenities such as clean air, EJ, is given as delta U divided by delta E. The whole is divided by delta U by delta X is equal to delta PHI upon delta EJ. Expression, that is the partial derivative of house price function with respect to environmental amenity variable EJ, gives us the implicit marginal price of an environmental characteristic. The first stage of estimation develops a measure of the marginal implicit price of EI but does not directly reveal the inverse demand function for EI. The second stage of the hedonic price method is to combine the quantity and implicit price function to identify the inverse demand function. It is hypothesized that the household's demand price, that is the willingness to pay for EI, is a function of income and other household variables which influence tastes and preferences. The inverse demand function, that is MI, is expressed as Mij is the function of EIJ, QI star, SI, NI, GI, where MI is a function of EJ given SI, NI socio-economic conditions, GI and other environmental characteristics, QI star as constant. The implicit marginal price should be equal to a household's willingness to pay. Other things being equal, the implicit marginal price is that additional amount which people would like to pay for having an additional amount of a particular environmental attribute such as cleaner air. Integrating with respect EIJ, people's welfare gains from reduced air quality is obtained as MIJ is equal to integrate 0 to 1 MIJ bracket EIJ comma Q star comma SI comma NI comma CI bracket close delta EIJ. Let us know the certain issues and limitations of hedonic price method. The hedonic price model captures people's willingness to pay only for perceived differences in environmental attributes because it assumes that people can perceive differences in environmental attributes such as air quality and their effects, that is the effects of air pollution. That is why there are differences in rental prices among housing units. However, in reality, households are not aware of a linkage between an environmental attribute and its benefits to them. Therefore, rent differentials may not be a correct measure of valuing an environmental attribute. To achieve equilibrium, it is assumed that households have full information on all housing prices and environmental attributes. Also, the costs of transactions and movement from one area to another are assumed to be zero. In addition to this, prices are assumed to be adjusted instantaneously to changes in either demand or supply. However, housing market can be viewed as a stock flow model, where the flow, that is a change in stock, is a function of prices, and the prices at any point in time are determined only by the stock at that point in time. However, it is argued in favor of HPM approach that if price data is accurate, that is either reported by the owner or is actual transaction price of the property, the error turns out to be very small on the average. Kane and Quigley, 1967. There are certain situations which may introduce biases in the marginal willingness to pay estimates. One such situation is the speed with which housing market adjusts with changing conditions of demand and supply. There would be a consistent lag in households' adjustment behavior if marginal implicit price schedule for an attribute moves consistently in one direction, and therefore marginal willingness to pay will be overstated or understated according to whether the marginal implicit price is rising or falling. The hedonic price model assumes that a sufficiently wide variety of different houses are available in the market with a combination of environmental characteristics so that every household is in equilibrium. The fewer the number of types of units, the greater is the error that will occur in the computation of marginal implicit prices and therefore in equilibrium marginal willingness to pay. However, in general, a divergence between actual data and theory does take place, and models are oversimplified by taking assumptions. So is true about hedonic price model, yet it has been proved that the model has good explanatory power, establish a link between housing prices, environmental attributes and household demand. Freeman, 1975. Let us now summarize what we have learned so far and discuss the policy implications. Environmental degradation poses a significant threat to human health. This threat will continue to grow significantly in future years if appropriate policy responses are not initiated. Continuous environmental degradation is a serious challenge to scientists, economists, researchers, and policymakers. To address this challenge, a number of valuation studies have been conducted in both developing and developed countries, applying different methods to capture health benefits from improved environmental quality. This chapter elaborates on two methods of revealed preference approach, the household health production method and hedonic price method. Both of these methods have been widely used to measure economic benefits of reduced air and water pollution. The selection of revealed preference approach for estimating economic benefits has an advantage of using data from the actual markets for the commodities that are either substitutes or complements to environmental services. Household health production model uses data of mitigating and averting activities undertaken by individuals to reduce morbidity effects of pollution. Hedonic price model uses data of rent differential which is paid by individuals as higher rents for having a residential property in an area where quality of ambient air is more acceptable. These expenditures reflect people's demand or their willingness to pay for having environmental goods and services such as clean air or water. Since environmental goods are not traded in the market, it is difficult to internalize the hazardous effects of environmental pollution. Therefore, it is essential to conduct economic valuation studies. The outcome of these analyses may provide policymakers with important information on relevant economic indicators for the design of efficient and sustainable economic policies. The degradation of environmental resources can be reduced by internalizing the economic value of ecosystem in decision making. However, through cost benefit analysis, the costs of the relevant environmental or health intervention policies should be compared with the aggregate monetary benefits obtained over the full range of beneficiaries.